We've been covering the sovereign citizens all week and getting plenty of feedback. A father and son were members of the movement committed the unprovoked slaughter of 2 police officers in West Memphis, Arkansas. Sovereign citizens follow their own rules, even if it sometimes leads to murder. Joining us now is Alfred Adask, a so-called sovereign citizens guru. Sir, I've been on this story for days since I saw the 60 Minutes piece. Tell us about the sovereign citizens movement. Am I misunderstanding this? I understand you don't like taxes, big government you're afraid of, and you're willing to commit murder to stay out of the, I guess, harm's way of government?
I don't know where you're getting your information, but you're completely off the wall. We're not willing to commit murder. That's not something that we advocate. That's not something that's going on here. That's point one.
Sir,
point two.
Oh, go ahead.
As a sovereign citizens movement, I don't know where the movement is. This is an idea that people are exploring. That's all it is. It's kind of like an idea whose time has come. But it's not, there's not a membership role or something like that.
All right, well,
there's something like an attitude. People are trying to understand what's happening in our legal system.
The numbers that are floated, sir, somewhere around 300,000 people at least sign into what we call the movement. You call it maybe an internet, I don't know, group, I guess. But sir, here are your own words. Give me the full screen, fellas. Your words, sir. We do not have the right to keep and bear arms so we can go duck hunting. We have the right to keep and bear arms in order to shoot our own politicians. And you go on a radio show to say that would include our president, our congresspeople, our law officers, even town mayors. Where do you get off saying that?
I get off saying that by reading the preamble to the Bill of Rights, which declares that the purpose of the Bill of Rights, it said, I have it here, I'm going to paraphrase, I'm going to quote it as best I can from memory. I could read it, take time. It says that the purpose of the Bill of Rights was to prevent misconstruction or abuse of the powers of the Constitution.
No, sir, I completely understand.
I
get it. I know the Second Amendment. I get it. I've read it. I get it. I understand it.
However, Second Amendment is part of the Bill of Rights.
Nowhere in there does it provide or allow a citizen to shoot an innocent human being.
No, we're not talking about shooting innocent human beings. You are quoting from what
your
60
words.
Minutes allowed you to hear.
No,
yeah,
your words. That was from a radio show pulled from your words.
Yeah, that's right. They are my words, but they're not all my words. If you want to hear all my words, the point I was making is that it is not a license to go out and shoot innocent people. The idea is, in the event that the government becomes tyrannical, in the event that the government becomes despotic, the principle is advanced in the Declaration of Independence when a long train of abuses and usurpations, I can't quote it exactly, but it says it is the people's right, it is their duty to throw off that government.
Sir,
there was the reason for it, and the Second Amendment creates the means.
I get that. I understand the Second Amendment protects against the tyrannical government. Are you saying we have a tyrannical government right now?
I'm saying that the government, the fundamental question that motivates the sovereignty movement, for lack of a better term, who is the boss? We the people or they the government? We just had the Indiana Supreme Court today declare that the police can enter a home even unlawfully.
Let's stay on this, sir. I understand that. I get that, and that's another issue for another time. I want to ask you, though, do you pay your taxes?
I pay taxes when they're due.
Do you owe taxes now?
Not in my opinion.
Not in your opinion. Okay, very good. Will you stay with us, sir? I want you to hold on. I want to go back to the videotape. This is the aftermath of the murder of two cops in West Memphis. The man in the white shirt is Chief Bob Powder. As he's walking up the hill, another officer tries to stop him, but he keeps on walking because the body of the officer laying on the road is his very own son. A very heartbreaking scene. Chief Powder joins us right now. Chief, I don't even know how to ask you this, but the thought you're feeling when you approach the lifeless body of your son.
Well, Eric, my life ended that very second that I saw Brandon lying there facing up with a gun in his hand, obviously in a gunfight for his life. You know, I heard Mr. Adask speak, and I saw him on the 60-minute program, and, you know, he's a distinguished-looking gentleman. And I, too, I'm a very conservative person. And, but, you know, you can take some of these things to the extreme, and I think that's what this sovereign citizens have done. They use every excuse they can for not paying taxes, for not registering their vehicles as they should. And even though they say they're conservative, they're extremists. And I've mentioned that they shouldn't have the right to say they're going to kill police officers or kill our president or kill anyone. You can take the First Amendment too far, and I think that they have, and I think something should be done with it.
Chief, just tell us what happened with that traffic stop. As a routine traffic stop, your son approached the car and asked for what? And tell us a little bit about that.
Actually, Eric, Bill Evans, his partner, actually stopped the car by himself that day, and Jerry King got out of the car and was trying to explain why the registration was to the Kingdom of Heaven and not to the state of Ohio, as the license indicated they should be. He was confused with the paperwork. Brandon was his sergeant, his immediate supervisor, so he called him. When Brandon got there, and if you look at the video very closely, you can see that Brandon was very confused by the paperwork given to him by sovereign citizen Kane, and he is a sovereign citizen regardless of what they say. But he gave him the paperwork. It confused the officers. A signal was given to Jerry Kane by Joe Kane to push Bill Evans out of the way. They were on a slope on the side of the expressway. He pushed Bill Evans down the slope, and Joe Kane opened fire with an AK-47, striking him 11 times. He then opened fire on Brandon. Brandon returned fire. There was a shootout. Brandon was struck in the head, and then subsequently he stood over my son with an AK-47 and shot him in the heart several times with that automatic weapon.
Hold in there, Chief.
Given by the truck driver.
Chief, I got to go to Mr. Adask. Sir, I've combed the websites for sovereign citizens, and this is consistent with what they say to do. They say, make your own license plates, make your own driver's license, use capital letters when you type your name on documents, because that'll create what's called a straw man. Use red crayon. Sir, this is consistent. Please respond to Police Chief.
Well, it's not consistent. What you're trying to describe as a movement is you're putting a bunch of people in the same box. You're putting people in that are to some degree anarchists, and you're saying these are part of the sovereign citizens, what you claim to be a movement. I'm not aware of a movement. I'm aware of people being categorized right now, but I don't know of any membership rolls. I don't have any followers. I don't have a membership list. All I do is I read and I write, I study, and I talk about the Constitution from time to time.
But sir, were these two, were the two
Kanes,
were Jerry and Joe Kane, were they sovereign citizens?
I don't know.
Okay, very good. Hang in there, guys.
I don't know. I've had no knowledge of. I had no knowledge. I never even heard of Jerry King or his son prior to the time they died.
Very good. That's not what I asked. I asked if they were
people.
sovereign citizens. I didn't ask if you knew them prior to the murders. Hang in there, guys. Let me bring it out, Doc. You see this? This scares me. You know, this scares me as much as Al Qaeda does.
Yeah. Well, these are people who feel just like Al Qaeda, that they are disempowered and they don't have the creative notion, or other elements in their life stories have led them to believe they have no redress whatsoever. They don't feel that they can use government. They don't feel that their votes matter. Ultimately, they're people who have become extremists and quite outside the norm because they don't understand how they can be effective, so they end up being violent. And it's the same as Al Qaeda, frankly.
Go ahead, Monty, quickly.
Yeah, it's really pretty remarkable, because if you choose to live in a country, then you choose to abide by their laws. It's a social contract. If you think that somehow the United States is particularly oppressive, then you can go get a patch of sand in the middle of the ocean and move there. But as long as you're here, you can argue for limited government and fiscal responsibility and free markets and all of the things that we argue about on this show and advocate for all the time. But you do it within the system. You exchange your political leaders. You do it through the ballot box. You don't do it through violence.
Do I have Crystal? Crystal, please weigh in on this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a heartbreaking story, and it's disgusting the use of the Constitution to justify murder of innocent civilians. As Monica was saying, you live in a society, you don't get to pick and choose which laws you follow, and we have a political process to express your concerns and to engage in and to change things.
All right, guys, one question to each of the...
One thing about it, let me just interrupt. I'm not using the Constitution to justify the deaths of any police officers. I'm not using it to justify the deaths of Jerry King and his son. If you're saying I'm using the Constitution to justify deaths, I'm not. I'm using the Constitution and the words that were written by the Founding Fathers to explain the purpose of the Second Amendment.
We're all for that. We're all for using the Constitution. It is it's our Bible. It's our document. But when the words that you speak, that I put up on the full screen a minute ago, when you say those, I think that can be misconstrued, especially by people who are within the movement, who are looking for some guidance, especially from a guy who calls himself the guru. Very quickly, I have one quick question. Police Chief, do you fear this movement? Do you fear retribution? Are you afraid of these guys?
No, I'm not afraid of them, Mr. Dusk, not at all.
Mr. Dusk,
well, I'm certainly not trying to intimidate you, I can tell you that.
Should he fear
a dozen dictionaries.
Listen, I'm not intimidated by you, sir. I just say I share some of the same views you do.
I'm not trying to intimidate you.
I'm not trying to intimidate you.
All right, guys, we're going to have to leave it there. I'm sorry. We'll stay on it. Thank you to Alfred Adask and Police Chief Robert Potter. Thank you very much, fellas. All right, up next.